All right, let's talk about On Holding, the Swiss brand that you are seeing literally everywhere these days. You've seen them, right? The shoes with those super distinctive cloud-like soles. Maybe you even own a pair. But what's really fascinating is the business story behind them, which is just as unique as their design. So how did a pretty niche running brand from Switzerland suddenly become this global sportswear giant? Well, let's get into it. We're going to pull back the curtain using their own financial reports and investor briefings to see exactly how they built this incredible machine.
Okay, so the story starts in Zurich, back in 2010. And right from the get-go, they had this one super ambitious mission that pretty much defined everything that came after.
And look, running on clouds, that's not just some slick marketing line. It was an actual engineering goal. This core idea, this feeling they wanted to create for runners, that became the absolute bedrock of their success. So, this crazy growth they've had, it is not luck. It is built on a super clear three-part strategy that they have just executed brilliantly. Okay, pillar one, it all starts with the tech. This patented stuff, like their cloud tech, it's all developed in-house in Switzerland. And the key is it creates a performance difference you can actually feel. I mean, in a super crowded market, that's the best kind of marketing you could ever ask for, right?
And that leads right into pillar number 2, their branding. They play up that Swiss design heritage, and for good reason. I mean, think about Swiss watches, right? It's not about being loud or flashy. It's all about precision, quality, and that clean, minimalist look. That premium feel lets them play in a different league, attracting people who want top performance, but also incredible style.
And you know what keeps that brand so authentic? The founders are still super involved. They're deep in the weeds on product design, marketing, and that's absolutely critical. It ensures that as they grow like crazy, they don't lose that original vision that made people pay a premium in the first place. All right, pillar number 3. And this one is maybe the most clever part of their whole playbook, how they actually sell the shoes. So, they have this two-pronged attack. On one hand, they partner with carefully chosen high-end stores, that's the wholesale part. But on the other hand, and this is key, they're pouring money into their own website and their own physical stores. That's direct-to-consumer, or DTC. By doing that, they control the whole experience. They own the relationship with you, the customer, and, get this, they make way more money on every pair they sell. It's a huge advantage. Okay, so we've seen the strategy, but does it work? Let's look at the numbers, because honestly, they are just wild. So, let's rewind to 2021. The company is already doing great, pulling in nearly 725 million Swiss francs in sales. I mean, that's a huge number for a brand that's barely a decade old. But believe it or not, that was just the appetizer. Because watch what happens just 1 year later. Boom. They don't just pass the billion-franc mark, they smash through it, hitting over 1.2 billion. That's what, nearly 70% growth in a single year? That is just insane acceleration. And they didn't slow down. By 2023, they're at almost 1.8 billion. So think about that. They more than doubled the size of their entire company in just 2 years. That kind of growth is just on another level. When you see it laid out like this, it really hits you. It's not just that the numbers are going up, it's the angle of that climb. It's almost vertical. This just proves that their three-pillar strategy isn't just working, it's absolutely firing on all cylinders. So that brings us to the big question. What's next? I mean, where do you go from here? Well, the company is pretty open about their game plan, but they're also very aware of the risks that come with this kind of hyper-growth. So here's the plan. They're doubling down on what works. They're pouring cash back into the business to boost their website, open more of their own slick retail stores in major cities, and carefully pick a few more wholesale partners. At the same time, they're expanding beyond just running into things like tennis and training. But, and this is a big but, they themselves point out, there's a real tension here. The very thing that made them special was that premium, almost exclusive vibe. As you get bigger and bigger, how do you keep that cool factor? It's the classic problem for any hot brand. How do you go mainstream without selling out? And it's not just about brand image. There are real-world operational risks too. For example, they point out that pretty much all their shoes were made in Vietnam back in 2021. When you rely so heavily on just a few suppliers, any hiccup in the supply chain could be a huge problem, especially when demand is off the charts. Okay, so after all that, what's the big takeaway? If you're going to remember one thing about On's business, what should it be? It really comes down to this simple but powerful formula. You start with patented tech that makes a genuinely better product. You wrap that product in a super premium, cool brand, and then you sell it through a carefully controlled network that protects your image and your profits.
it's honestly a masterclass in how to build a modern brand.
And that's really the billion-dollar question, isn't it? They've used innovation and branding to put themselves on the map in a huge way. But as they get bigger and bigger, can they hold on to that premium strategy that made them so successful in the first place? That's what we'll all be watching